All right, hello and welcome. Today we are diving into the big ideas from J. Novis Elkin's book, From Garden to Garden. The whole argument of the book is that the first few chapters of the Bible aren't just an ancient story, but actually give us a complete and really powerful worldview for our lives today. So let's get into it.
So the book starts with these 4 questions. And the argument is that these are the questions that are kind of buzzing in the back of every human heart. Whether we realize it or not, we're all looking for answers to these. And a lot of our modern anxiety, the author suggests, comes from not having a solid place to stand when we ask them.
So, why bring this up right now? Well, the author's starting point is that, let's be honest, we're living in a time of some serious confusion. I mean, think about it. What does it even mean to be human when we've got AI? What's our purpose when jobs are changing so fast? Is there any such thing as truth anymore in what people call a post-truth world? The book's point is that these aren't just, dusty old philosophical questions. They create this deep uncertainty in our day-to-day lives, and it leaves a lot of us just looking for some kind of solid ground.
And this is where the book makes its central claim. It proposes the Genesis, chapters 1 through 3, aren't just a story about the beginning of time, it's actually a complete worldview, the very foundation that so many of us are searching for.
Now, what's really important here is a distinction the author makes. The idea isn't to read Genesis like a science textbook, trying to match it up with modern physics. No, instead, it's presented as God's own revelation of himself. It's like the pair of glasses you need to put on to understand the rest of the Bible and really to make sense of all of reality itself.
This chart just lays out the book's framework perfectly. You can see how it takes those 4 big universal questions and maps them right onto the story in Genesis. We get clear answers broken down into origin, identity, problem, and solution. Let's kick things off with the first 2.
All right, first up, the question of origin. Where did all of this, the universe, our world, us, where did it all come from? So the Bible starts with this absolutely radical statement. You have to remember, other ancient stories began with, chaos or gods fighting each other. But Genesis starts with a single intentional creator. Everything begins with God. And the language here is just so rich. The Hebrew word for created is bara, and it's not a simple one-dimensional word. The book explains that it's like God is an artist sculpting, a gardener nurturing, and the ultimate source of all being, all at the same time. So why does this one word matter so much? Well, because right from the very first verse, it tells us that God is both incredibly powerful and deeply personal. You have to understand, this idea was totally revolutionary. When you compare it to other ancient myths filled with all these warring, chaotic gods, Genesis presented a world of purpose and intentional order. In this story, nature isn't divine, it's created. And humans are given this unique place of incredible dignity. So what about that famous phrase, formless and void? The book makes the case that this isn't talking about God just renovating a pre-existing ruin. No, tohu valbohu describes a state of true absolute nothingness. And here's the profound point. It means that reality and meaning and value, they aren't just things that exist on their own. They are gifts given by God.
Okay, so let's move on to that second question and see how this all builds. Our identity. If God created everything, then who are we in the middle of all this creation? The author pulls out 3 key parts of our identity right from Genesis. First, we are made in God's image. Second, we are designed for community. And third, we're given a commission, a purpose that flows right out of who we are and our relationships.
And here is just a beautiful idea from the book. The Hebrew word for the sky, rakia, comes from a root that means a rhythmic spreading out, almost like a dance. So the author has this poetic way of describing it, saying God created a holy dancing space, a place for God and humanity to interact. So if God creates this dance floor, what's our part? Well, our part is described by the word rada, which we translate as dominion. And get this, it has a similar rhythmic feel, like treading grapes to make wine. The author connects these 2 words to suggest that our whole purpose is like a responsive dance. We cultivate the earth to bring forth life and joy and beauty. So, our commission, our job description, if you will, is to fill the world with God's image by taking care of it, governing it, and producing life and beauty through this amazing, joyful dance of dominion. It's a call to be active, creative partners in God's world. Of course, if that's the beautiful ideal, we all know that's not the world we see every day. So we have to ask, what went wrong? And that brings us to the last 2 parts of this worldview framework. The problem, according to Genesis 3, is the fall. The book describes this as a rebellion, a moment that just fractured everything. It damaged the image of God in us, it broke our relationship with our Creator, and it let sin and death into a world that was created to be very good.
But, and this is so important, the story doesn't just end there in brokenness. Even in the middle of judgment, Genesis gives us a promise. There's this little glimmer of hope given. A future seed who will one day come and crush evil and restore everything that was lost. This is the promised solution to the problem of the fall.
You know, this quote from the author really just wraps it all up so well. The whole point of the book isn't just to explain how the world started, but to give us the beginning of understanding, a real framework for a life of meaning and purpose and hope.
And that really brings us to our final thought for today. The author gives us this whole comprehensive worldview straight from Genesis. So the big question for all of us is this: if we actually try to look at the world through this four-part lens, how might it really change the way we see ourselves, our purpose, and everything around us? It's a pretty powerful question to sit with. Thanks so much for watching.